This is Listen Lakeland, the show that keeps you up to date on all things happening in and around the Lakeland area. Here's your chance to plan your family activities and learn more about what your city government and your neighbors are doing to make Lakeland a great place to live, work, and play.
Hello. Thank you for joining us for the April edition of the Listen Lakeland radio show, a show highlighting people, places, activities, and organizations that make our community an exceptional place to call home. I'm Trendy Lorena with Lakeland Vision. At Lakeland Vision, our mission is to discover what is important to the community of Lakeland and bring people and organizations together to make that shared vision a reality. And one of the things you, the community, have said is important to you are having having activities for a diverse community, including arts and entertainment and youth activities. So today I'm talking to two leaders from our community in those arenas, and I'm really excited to have them both here, and also really, really grateful because they have worked through scheduling challenges and technical challenges to be with me here today. So my guests today are Lyndon Castleberry, Executive Director of Campfire Sunshine Council, and Nate Fleming, Executive Director of LkldLive, home to, and he is also co-founder of Swan City Improv. So thank you guys both for being with me here today.
Thank you.
And we're trying something new. We've been doing these for the last year through basically GoToMeeting, Zoom-like platform. And today we are trying to, as normalcy kind of reinserts itself, we are back kind of live and in person, but we are very distant from each other, so in a new space. So again, thank you. Lynn Ann, I want to find out a little bit more about you. So tell me, how did you actually first come to Lakeland, or are you a Lakeland native?
I am not a Lakeland native. I was actually born and raised in Northwest Pennsylvania. In 91, my mom and dad called me while I was in college and said, "Hey, do you mind if we move to Florida while you're still in college in New York?" And I was like, "Sure, do what you need to do." So I never had plans of moving down and went ahead and graduated from college, and then about a year and a half later found myself moving to Florida. My very first job when I came to town in summer of 93 was working at Campfire. At that point I was hired on as the executive director's administrative assistant. And I did that for a few years and then went off to own my own business and do some other things, worked in the medical field and the veterinary field. Came back many, many times to Campfire, whether it be with youth or with part-time jobs and stuff. And then about 6 years ago, came back in as the bookkeeper, and then from the bookkeeper to the executive director position 2 years ago.
That's awesome. So you have a really long history with Campfire. Now, I have to be honest, I'd never heard of Campfire before I came to Lakeland, but now my daughter has been there, and I love the organization, and I found out a lot more. So Campfire has a really rich kind of origin story. It started off in England, is that right?
In New England. Okay. Started up in New England in the very early 1900s in 1910. There was a doctor in the area that had all girls, and his colleagues had boys that were all in Boy Scouts, and he wanted something for his daughters to do, so he created Campfire. And in its early days, it was girls only. And then in 1970, early 70s, mid 70s, we transferred to being co-ed. So we've been completely co-ed since mid 70s. At this point, we are just about 50-50 boys and girls. We serve a very diverse group. We start with kids going into kindergarten and serve kids all the way up through their senior year in high school.
That's great. And I'm fascinated that you actually mentioned the fact that you guys integrated genders back in the 1970s. And I'm just curious, do you know what was the sort of impetus for that back in the 70s? Because we know Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, they've really struggled with that.
They have. I think part of it was even as far back in the 70s, Campfire started to move away from the club program. What Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts called troops or packs, we called clubs. And I think even as far back as the 70s, Campfire on a national level realized that programming was getting harder and harder to enroll kids in and keep them active in. So they started to move more towards youth leadership, adult outdoor skills, lots of camping and love of nature, and youth empowerment. So I think that they just kind of were ahead of the cusp and saw it coming and kind of reacted early to try to stay ahead of the needs.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. I know as a Girl Scout myself, when I was younger and my brother was a Boy Scout, I used to jealously look at him and what his troop was doing and the wilderness activities and all of that. And I always said, and I know so many other women like me who were all like, we'd rather be in Boy Scouts. But I think I've come to find out that really we would have rather been in Campfire this whole time.
I believe we've done a great job of doing away with gender roles before, in the 70s we started doing away with gender roles. So whatever every kid has the same opportunity with us. So.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And one of the other things that I know that I've really appreciated about Campfire, and another area that Lakeland Vision is really focused on, is what we call age-friendly Lakeland, which means having a lot of activities for people of all ages. And I feel like Campfire really serves a group that can be difficult to serve because you guys have a lot of programs and activities for teenagers.
The typical teen that comes to us, and I hate to say that typical, but the most of our teens are, they're not the kids that are super involved in sports. They're not the kids that are, super involved with another activity like that, and they're looking for something to do, and they're looking for a place where they feel welcome and they feel comfortable and they feel heard. Because of our youth leadership and our youth voice, I think our teens feel at ease with us, and they're able to have that input on programming or have that input on a service project. Or the other thing that almost all of our teen programming includes service hours for the teens. So if they're that kid that's looking to get as many service hours as they can for scholarship purposes or any kind of awards, special awards and stuff like that, then we're always able to make sure they get plenty of service hours. When I hear a parent say, there's nowhere for my child to get service hours, I'm like, oh, no, we can help you lots with service hours.
Well, and then that's another thing too. I think the first time I heard about you, a friend of mine described Campfire as the best kept secret in Lakeland.
Yes. We fight that regularly. We don't want to be the best kept secret, and we've come a long way with it. But we have some ways to go.
So, just while we're talking about it, where can people find out information about how to sign up, what the programs are, where they can?
We try to keep an active social media presence. We are definitely on Facebook as Campfire Sunshine, and then we also have Instagram and Twitter. We have a website. Our website is campfire-sunshine.org. Try to keep that as up to date as possible with all of the new and up and coming programs and stuff. And any of our stuff that you need to register for, you can do it through the website. And it also gives you an outline of kind of who Campfire is and what our vision is, and our philosophy of working with the kids of all ages.
That's great. And Nate, I want to turn my attention to you over here as you've been sitting patiently and quietly over there, which is unusual because Nate is usually one of the most exuberant people in any room and has a great a tremendous diversity of activities that he is involved with. So you are now Executive Director of LkldLive. Can you tell us a little bit about what LkldLive is and what you do there?
Yeah, we're a nonprofit whose whole purpose is to enrich the downtown area with live performing arts while also supporting the artists that create those arts. So whether that be financially or offering a more discounted rate for artists to put their shows up, and the purpose that we kind of aim for is we put on the shows that Polk Theater won't or Lakeland Community Theater won't, because they have a larger seat capacity they have to fill. So for us, we could do two-man improv shows or smaller theater shows or indie music shows, which is kind of our bread and butter, is the people you haven't heard of yet, but you absolutely want to hear of.
That's great. And, my day job is actually with Lakeland now, and you just helped us out tremendously by being the venue for our city commission candidate forum that we just did. So, yeah, it's a tremendous venue that you can do a lot of different things in there. Now, you have an interesting kind of history with Lakeland. You have been back and forth quite a lot. You're a graduate of Southeastern College, correct?
I am, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Was that your first experience coming to Lakeland here?
Yeah. Southeastern was my first experience. So I moved here in 2010. I left, came back, left, came back. It really, the boomerang effect has held strong with me. I can't get out of here for some reason.
I was going to say, so what is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly how I am with Campfire.
Yeah.
So what is it that you think keeps kind of pulling you back into Lakeland, into this scene?
Right now, it's accidents. Like I left to go to Chicago to pursue my dreams of comedy, and like 6 months after I left, I got a phone call from Rochelle School of the Arts. I taught their middle schoolers how to play improv, and they're like, hey, do you mind coming down and doing a show with us so we can raise money for our May production? It's like, cool, I'll do that. And then gave a phone call to LkldLive well before I was executive director, a couple of months after LkldLive had opened. Said, hey, can I put the improv show up so I can come down, play with the kids, but also put up a more adult-themed show? He said yes, we sold out, and then we just kept doing it every month since then, which is, today is our 4-year anniversary, actually.
Wow.
So like right now in the recording of the podcast, Swan City Improv has been around for 4 years today.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So it was accidental. I did not intend or plan to start anything in Lakeland again, but I did, and it grew rapidly and required someone to be here full time to give their attention to it, to manage it. So I just moved down from Chicago and managed Swan City Improv.
That's great. Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about Swan City Improv, and the troupe that you have now, and tell listeners if they're interested in coming to a performance, how do they find you?
Yeah, so I just updated the website, so if you want to find us, you can find us at swancityimprov.com. We've got classes starting back up April 12th, but our main thing is we do 2 shows every single month. Every single first Friday, there's a show at 7:30 and 9:10 p.m. The 7:30 show is short form, a bunch of quick game-based improv, and the 9:10 p.m. is a long form where it's essentially we're putting on a play for you guys that we make up on the spot. So improv comedy is us just working together, making it up, doing our best to make you laugh, and we do it every single first Friday. I think we've only missed a few. Even in the pandemic, we were doing it virtually for a little while, and we approach our comedy with the Pixar method, where we're not trying to teach anyone any new words. So we find out who the youngest person in the audience is, and we play to them. So if it happens to be the youngest person in the audience is 21, then we're going to have a 21-year-old show. If the youngest person is 4, then we're going to have a 4-year-old show, where we might say some jokes that go over their head, but we are in no way trying to be inappropriate. So we're 100% family friendly.
Oh, that's a great approach. So yeah, you guys are really family friendly. So if anyone's looking to get out of the house, you have a show this Friday then?
We actually have a show tonight. And tomorrow. So it's our 3-year anniversary tonight because we didn't do it last year. And tomorrow's our 4-year anniversary.
Of course, I say that and I realize that we were taping right now on April 1st, but this won't air for another month.
So then the next show you can see is on May 7th. That's the next improv show, May 7th, 7:30 and 9:10 p.m.
And completely, family friendly because of that approach. That's wonderful. So actually, I think one of the things that you guys both have in common, both these organizations have in common, is I know, Lynn, when you took over as executive director of Campfire, it was actually after kind of a devastating loss to your organization, and you had to work really hard to restabilize the organization. Can you tell us a little bit about what that journey was like?
Yes, I took over 2 years ago when our former executive director and my very dear friend Holly Lane passed away. Her and I were both hired within weeks of each other back in '93. She was there a couple months ahead of me, and she was hired at the time to come in and start the teen program. There was very little teen-specific programming happening at that time, and she came in, and over the course of 25 years, created pretty much everything we do today, or the base for everything we do today. She was very passionate about working with those teens, and even when she was moved over to the executive director position, she struggled to not work hands-on with her teens. She absolutely loved them. They were her kids. They're 30 and 40 years old now, and they will still talk about, how what a big impact Holly had on their life. So it's like our CF66 trip in the summer, that is a service learning trip for our 9th through 12th graders, 100% Holly's brainchild. Just pretty much everything that we do goes back to Holly creating it at one point or another.
And so, and obviously after her loss, the organization, had a difficult moment in figuring out how to move forward and what the new vision would be. And I heard you speak at an event that was actually hosted by QGIve with some of your board members, and how you guys kind of rallied behind the mission and and worked really hard to kind of restructure to make sure that Holly's legacy would live on.
Yes, the last 2 years have been, they've been amazing, as much as they have been, a little rough and very sad. We've tried to do our very best to, like you said, pay tribute to Holly's memory and her legacy. We have also just been very fortunate the last couple years. We've had, our programming has just exploded in registration. Yesterday, I had to close all the day camp registrations for the summer.
Wow.
Registration was open for 31 days. March 1st and March 31st, we're full. We can't take another kindergarten through 6th grader for day camp this year. We are full. It's been super great. So there's still some room for our summer programming with our teen stuff, which is fine. We'll have 2 trips, a middle school trip and a high school trip, and then service projects most every day except for Wednesdays. So we've also been able to do some amazing renovations on our building that were literally, some of them were talked about 25 years ago when I started with Campfire. So it was really awesome to finally see us be able to have the vision and the support. We had some amazing support from the community, different contractors being able to help us either completely in kind or at a very reduced rate, so that we were able to do that. And with COVID, we were able to make our building more functional, not only for normal days, but for COVID days. So as crazy as the last 2 years have been, there's also been some incredible bright spots in the time too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a common theme that's been emerging, that as difficult as this last year has been, a lot of organizations are finding kind of strength and resiliency and an adaptability that's going to make them even better going on. So it sounds like Campfire is definitely in that place.
Yes, that's a great way to put it, yes.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And one of my favorite Campfire programs, the one that my daughter is specifically like the most involved in, has actually been the haunted house.
Yes. So interestingly enough, when we held it last fall, we didn't know what to expect because of COVID. We were like, are people going to come out? Are they ready to come out? It has always, or not always, it has for the most part in the last several years been in the backyard with a little bit of inside. So last year we completely made it 100% outside, and we also cut it down to 4 nights. Historically, it had averaged anywhere from 12 to 15 nights. Ironically, last year in 4 nights, we saw more guests and higher revenue from it in 4 nights than we had ever done in all the previous 20 years of 12 and 15 nights. It was impressive. So it also kind of taught us that like we'll back down to the fewer nights and continue that model rather than, let me tell you, 15 nights of haunted house after a month and a half of building it is a lot. So I think it was an interesting outcome that we did not expect.
Mm-hmm. And planning for that starts a lot sooner than I think a lot of people would imagine. We don't start thinking about Halloween until maybe September, but you start thinking about Halloween a lot earlier in the year.
Yes, planning starts in June, and it is generally on a Tuesday night, every Tuesday night all summer long. And it's the teenagers, it's our teens, anywhere from 6th to 12th grade, and a few staff members. And they hash out the theme and the design and the graphics, and the teens are very much much involved in all of those stages. And then about the 1st of September, they start to build, and it takes right up until mid-October to have the build done. We're very creative when it comes to what we build out of. Some years it's been pallets, some years it's been stockade fence, sometimes it's plastic walls. It just depends on what's available to us at the time to keep the costs down as much as possible. And again, Haunted House is such a success because we have a lot of community support, which is extremely helpful with the building supplies.
Yeah, and the teens really leading the project, I think, is one of the strengths to it, and they come out, and I've seen this firsthand, they come out feeling really, empowered. And back to that gender inclusion thing, I think too often we don't give girls power tools early enough.
They come to Haunted House, they'll definitely know how to use the screw gun before it's over.
They absolutely will. I can testify to that. Nate, even though when you came into Lakeland Live, it wasn't, it wasn't quite a devastating loss, but you came in at a moment of transition for the organization too, I think, and kind of looking at kind of a different vision and a different future for Lakeland Live. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you see the organization?
Yeah, I mean, we have the same problem as you guys at Campfire. No one really knows about us, and the people who do know are like, why don't more people know? It's
we hear all the time.
Yeah, I've had countless people come in this past month since we've started to reopen and do shows where they're like, I never knew this place existed. I'm like, well, I'm working on it. Okay.
All right. Well, here's a chance. Tell people where to find you, because you are right in downtown, but you are a little bit hidden.
Yeah, we're right in downtown. I'm working on getting signs, which is a thing we should have had when we opened. But we're right across the street from Jimmy John's. There's that building right next to the train tracks. We're kind of tucked in the very middle of the building. So on one side is Rec Room Bar, on the other side are offices. We're in the middle. So you have to go around towards the train track side to enter in through those glass double doors, and then you're into our venue. The lobby we repainted to make it look like you're walking into our space, and the space itself has been a little bit repainted as well. So some minor things. But I took it over January 24th, 2020. So I had a month and a half before it was like, well, now I have to figure out how to run a completely different organization for however long this is going to last. Mm-hmm. We pivoted as best we could. Mm-hmm. I don't think we pivoted the best out of anyone. I mean, I'm the only staff member, so there's a lot that needs to be done. We're a nonprofit who hasn't really leaned into the nonprofit, so we don't have donations either. We exist really off of ticket sales, and we have a liquor license. But I keep saying we because I do have a board of directors who help me out as well. But we are working very hard to turn things around in these next few months. So as we reopen, people get to know who we are, people get to know where we are, and people get to know what we do and why we do it, which is all the questions that should be answered right away when you see an organization like us. Mm-hmm. But last year, we pivoted to video recording stuff. So we have a whole live streaming suite in our venue now, so any professional live streaming, we can do that. And we keep everything distanced until it's time to pack it out again once everything's safe.
So that was going to be my next question. Are you at capacity yet, or for the improv shows, are you still doing distancing?
So our capacity is 205. Mm-hmm. We're probably not going to get above 70 to 80 is my guess, mm-hmm. and that has everyone distance out pretty well. We could even do up to like 120, 130 and still have enough space for everybody to fit in there. We also have a garage door that we can open in the back, so if events do get too big, we just open the door and it kind of spills outside. But my guess is in the next couple of months, we'll be back to doing things at capacity and more than likely having two separate offerings where we have a masked show and an unmasked show. Because I think there are going to be people who are vaccinated, who are ready to get out and do things normally. So it's just going to be weird figuring out how to make that work. And as they say, making the least amount of people angry, because people they want to find something to be angry about, I guess, because their lives aren't exciting enough. So the amount of comments I have on ads I put out that I don't monitor the comments on ads, they're ads online, where people just get into arguments on whether or not they should wear masks and not bringing their family or bringing their, I'm just like, I don't have time for this. I have to have to run the rest of the organization. And if you don't show up, it sucks for you, but I think we'll get other people to arrive with us.
I think people
Yeah.
just need to do what's best for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's definitely going to be an important factor going forward. And if you, assess your own risk and know what you are comfortable with, but also, realizing that there are other people whose risks are slightly different than yours. But you mentioned a little bit earlier about starting classes and having classes for teens. Can we look for that coming this summer? Do you want to tell us more about the classes?
Improv classes start back up April 12th and 13th for level 1 and level 2.
And what is a level 1 student versus a level 2 student?
A level 1 student is you have probably never done it before.
Okay.
A level 2 student is you've taken our level 1.
Okay. Easy enough.
Level 1, we focus on just introducing you to the ideas of improv. You already know it, you just don't know you know it. Level 2 is us then honing in on some more specific skills to be able to teach you long form. And then level 3, which is our last one, is just kind of throwing you out there and making you do what you've learned over the last 16 weeks. So all in all, if you take everything we have for improv specifically, you're going through 24 weeks of classes total, so about half a year of classes.
That's awesome.
And then you've learned everything you need to learn. You can keep taking more, but you've learned everything you need to learn, really.
And are any of the classes age specific, or are you going to just see who kind of enrolls?
Yeah, we recommend like above 16 usually, just because to teach younger than 16, there's some, you have to do less unlearning. So as an adult, I have to teach you how to forget you're an adult. For kids, I don't have to teach them that. So it's a lot easier to teach kids improv than it is to teach adults. So I don't want the adults feeling bad at how much better the kids are than them. So I try to keep the kids away from the adults in that aspect.
What do you say? I feel like that sort of bears repeating. So you have to teach people, you have to teach adults how to unlearn being adults to get them to be good at improv.
They take everything too seriously. So I have to remind you that what you're doing is imagination play. It's the same thing you did as a kid where you're having sword fights as knights or you're playing cops and robbers. You never were actually those things, but you remember like being that, believing it. You just don't do that anymore as an adult because you just teach yourself to, I guess, grow up is the term. Maybe. Not familiar with it. So, but kids, you don't have to teach them that. And immediately they don't care what you think. They just have fun.
Wow. So it sounds to me, and I have to admit, the concept of improv terrifies me. But that you just said makes me want to actually take an improv class because it sounds like it's something that would actually be good for mental health right now after this incredibly difficult year.
So to be honest, did you script anything we would say?
A little bit.
And did you script everything you would say?
No.
Did you stick to it?
No.
So you improvised this whole thing, correct?
Yes.
So then all I'm doing is teaching you how to do what you already do. I'm just giving you terms for it, really.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, Nate, in part, and you already know this, I mean, part of the reason why I was so grateful that you were able to join me here today is we did have another guest lined up who wasn't able to join. And so my thought process was, if there's somebody who can help me wing my way through this, it's going to be Nate. He is a master of improv because I am somebody I like to control and I like to prepare. And so this was a bit scary for me. So thank you for being here and being my master of improv and making me more comfortable. And maybe someday I'll find the courage to actually take an improv class.
I'll just badger you till you do.
Well, I do have a tendency to turn bright red when I'm thrown onto stage all of a sudden.
Then your character should just always be the Kool-Aid man.
There you go.
You fixed it. There you go.
There you go.
Work with what you have.
Exactly.
And Lynn, you and I were chatting a little bit before the show, and you have this amazing story. As I think we're kind of coming here into the end, I just wanted to share this because I just discovered about how Campfire actually brought you a new family member. This is amazing.
It did. Anyone who knows me is going to think that I got another dog, and no, this is not a dog. It is an actual child. Yes, we had a camper 2 spring breaks ago, actually, that joined us. And at this point, we were in scramble mode with Holly just passing, and he came to my office every day for a hug, and he would check on me, and he didn't know me from anyone else, but he just kind of clicked. And Then he continued to come throughout the summer, and it just kind of, once my husband and I learned more about his situation and his housing and his foster care situation and stuff, my husband and I jumped in to provide him a temporary place until a family was found. Well, his permanent home is with us, so his adoption will hopefully finalize within the next month or so. So he's very excited, and as are we.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
On your new family, and hopefully to be formalized sooner than later. But I think I can't imagine a better sort of testament to your program that can actually create new families and create that safe space for those children.
Yeah, we're very excited.
Congratulations. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Listen Lakeland is brought to you as a collaborative project between Lakeland Vision, the City of Lakeland, and Hall Communications. It's truly a community working together to provide an exceptional quality of life.